Something about finding an odd piece of information that is always fascinating. In the sea of data that floats around major sports, occasionally you reel in one of them funny looking fish in the numbers ocean. Sometimes they're ugly, sometimes they're not, but today I have 5 obscure NHL records that I hope you find interesting. And I hope to God so, because otherwise you would have clicked off of this video by now. Before I get into the list, as always, leave a like, comment, or subscribe, or follow me on Twitter, because I don't have a gold play button at my house, and if you do that, it helps me take another step towards that happening. Alrighty then, let's go fishing. Number 5, fastest coach firing from start of the season, Paul Thompson. In the 1944 Stanley Cup Final, the Hawks took a beatdown from the Montreal Canadiens, getting swept 4-0 and losing Game 4 in a painful overtime. Even though they made the final, they had a pretty pedestrian year, going 22-23-5, a sub-500 record. They somehow upset the Red Wings in the playoffs and got to the finals, where they were clearly outclassed. Paul Thompson was their coach, and he was heading into his 7th year coaching the squad in 1944. And even though he sat on the bench for 6 years before, the Hawks accumulated a record of 104, 121, and 41 and consistently finished at the bottom of the standings. I guess making the Stanley Cup Final didn't impress ownership, as it was clear that Thompson better show them something or his ass was out. And all it took was an 11-5 loss to the Leafs on opening night, and he was cleaning out his desk by noon. Yep. One game and he got the shit can. I mean, why even let the dude start the season? He had a sub-500 record over 6 years, and you want to see what he does for one game? Anyways, ain't nobody ever gotten the axe quicker than that, and unless someone gets fired mid-game, which Islanders fans would have loved doing to Capuano this year, he's gonna have this record forever. Number 4, most career games, no shutouts, goalie. If you saw my names video, there are a lot of funny ones in the NHL, and I love this next one, Pokey Reddick. Mr. Reddick was a goalie for 3 different squads, for the Jets, the Oilers, and the Panthers in the late 80s and 90s, and with a name like that, you gotta be known for something, right? It's scoring, right? Not with that Reddick, buddy. Pokey was getting scored on, and in 132 career games, Captain Red Crotch never recorded a single shutout. And he has this record by an ocean. The next guy on the list is 50-back Jim Rivnick. And apparently Reddick made goaltending look pretty hard, as because he never even came close to pitching a goose egg. Only 3 times in his career did he only allow even 1 goal. I mean, damn, this guy's net had more rubber inside it than Khloe Kardashian in an NBA locker room. Ooh, that hurts. Number 3, most times traded in career, Mike Sillinger. Mike Sillinger, a Canadian pivot who was originally drafted by the Red Wings, has an interesting record. He was traded a record 10 times in his career. Talk about not unpacking your shit to put away in your house, ever. I mean, it's a real good thing to have a job in the NHL, but damn, 10 times a team didn't want you? I suppose you could say 10 times a team did want you, but why did the 9 teams before you trade you away? I'm going to say it's because you added value or something. Let's track the mileage for Sillinger. He starts his full-time NHL career in 1992/1993. On April 4th, 1995, he gets traded to the Ducks along with Jason York for Mark Ferner, Stu Grimson, and a 6th-round pick who became Magnus Nilsson. Then a year later, on March 15th, 1996, he gets traded to the Canucks straight up for Roman Oxiuta. 2 years later, February 8th, 1998, the Canucks deal him to the Flyers for a draft pick. Later that same year, in December, he gets shipped to the Lightning with Chris Groton for Damon Lankow and Michael Renberg. 2 years later, he's traded to the Panthers for 2 players, Dwayne Hay and Ryan Johnson. Then nearly exactly a year later, he's traded to Ottawa for essentially nothing, the return of a draft pick they already had. Then on July 22nd, 2003, he gets traded twice in the same day. The Sens trade him to the Stars for Daryl Sador. Then in a matter of minutes, he is traded to the Coyotes for Teppo Numminen. This guy's getting tossed around like a football. A year later, he's sent to the Blues for Brent Johnson. And finally, mercifully, he gets his last come to my office meeting when on January 29th, 2006, he's traded to the Nashville Predators for Timofey Shishkinov. Man, this guy got shopped around. He ended his career with the Isles after he's picked up as a free agent, in which he had 2 decent years. Man, he should have tried free agency, bro. The total mileage of his trade travels is I salute you, Mike. You played 1,000 NHL games the hard way. And the Yoggers have nothing on this guy. Number 2. Most playoff games played in career, no regular season games. Ron Hainsey has played in about 900 NHL games without once appearing in the playoffs, which he should do this year barring injury. Of course, he is currently injured, but should be fine for the bracket. And then there is the opposite of Hainsey. In fact, there are many players, 26, whose only NHL games they have ever played occurred solely in the playoffs, and that was it, including announcer Don Cherry, who played in one NHL playoff game. And nobody in the history of the NHL has played in more playoff games without ever playing in the regular season than Leo Tefalt, who played in 5 playoff games for the Minnesota North Stars in 1968, and Sidney McNaby, who played in 5 playoff games for the Canadiens in 1951. Tefalt was a left winger, and in his 5 games in the playoffs, he didn't log any stats. He retired 2 times after that, never reaching the NHL again. McNaby logged an assist in his 5 playoff games with the Canadiens, but was considered undersized for the NHL at 5'7", 150 pounds. I don't buy the size argument for hockey. Last time I checked, the puck is only 1.5 inches high and the ice is flat. Lots of smaller players are huge stars in this league. After his playoff run in which the Canadiens lost in the finals to the Maple Leafs, McNaby played for 3 more years in the minors and then unfortunately died from cancer at the young age of 28. On a serious note, cancer can stick it. Number 1. Most goals allowed to opposing goaltender. 1. A few goalies have scored in the NHL, most notably Ron Hextall, who loved chucking pucks down the ice and seeing if he could pot an empty netter. Notice that last part, empty netter. But only one goalie in the history of the NHL has ever been scored on by another goalie, and no, it isn't Jonathan Bernier. On March 21st, 2013, the Devils were battling the Canes. In the opening period, a delayed penalty was called against the Devils, and Canes goalie Dan Ellis did what any good goalie would do and headed towards his bench. Unfortunately for Ellis, the Canes accidentally sent the puck back towards their net, and though he tried to race back to make the save, plinko, a goal scored. And the last Devil to touch the puck? Marty Brodeur, who was credited with his record 3rd NHL goal of his career, and Ellis was given the goal allowed since he was technically on the ice when it happened. This is like one of those dumb baseball rules where the player still gets a put out even though an error happened on the play. I hope your brain doesn't hurt too much from thinking about it, but let's just watch and see what happened.
Who takes the puck, gets around Ilya Kovalchuk, still going, and it's swept aside by Brodeur, and a penalty coming up against New Jersey. As this deflects back, could this go in? Yes!
Oh man, Danny. You and Mike Murphy, I feel for you, bro. Sometimes it's just one of those days. Like when you go fishing and you get shut out. Agree with my list? I hope it was fun. Again, leave a like, comment, and subscribe as always. I'm 5 Points Gaming, and you made it to the end of this video.